Good evening. I get many puzzled looks when I tell people I'm an aircraft dispatcher. My uncle was a dispatcher long before I became one, and even after he explained it to me, I still wasn't sure what it was exactly a dispatcher did. Today I'm going to tell you what it is a dispatcher does and why they are so important. So, what is a dispatcher? We're going to address that by covering three main topics. The first, what is the difference between a dispatcher and air traffic control? The second, what are the responsibilities of a dispatcher? And finally, why is dispatching so important? Let's first discuss a common misunderstanding between dispatching and ATC. There are several differences between dispatching and air traffic controls. The first one is who they're employed by. Dispatchers are employed by the airline, and they typically work in a network operations center. Air traffic controllers are employed by the FAA, and they typically work in the tower. So as you can see in my second point here, they work in completely different locations. One is on the tower or maybe in a radar room, while dispatcher is located in a network operations center. They're working alongside other members of the airline that also work in operations, typically at a home base. For American Airlines or Southwest, that's here in DFW. They also have completely different responsibilities. Air traffic controllers' primary responsibility is to ensure the safe separation of aircraft in flight, and also to ensure that, to take charge and help in an emergency situation. Dispatchers are in charge of the pre-flight responsibilities, such as preparing the route of flight, preparing the necessary weights and balances, determining fuel requirements, selecting the correct airports, sometimes selecting alternate airports in preparation for maybe a weather event, and also to prepare weather forecasts and notify the pilot of any weather changes that he may need to know of. What are the responsibilities of a dispatcher? Dispatchers have many responsibilities. I'm not able to cover that in a 6-minute video, but I will talk about some of the highlights. Number one is operational control. The FAA website defines operational control as the authority to initiate, conduct, or terminate a flight. So that is the definition of operation control. Pilots and dispatchers share joint operational control. They are duly responsible and share 50-50 liability in the case of any sort of incident or emergency. Dispatchers are also responsible for the pre-flight planning. This includes many aspects, some of which we've discussed. That would be preparing the route of flight, preparing all weather reports and notifying the pilot, selecting appropriate airports and appropriate alternate airports, preparing the weights and balances, ensuring that the correct fuel, the minimum fuel supply, is accurate, and other things ensuring that the aircraft's not going to be too heavy when it's landing. They are also responsible for the canceling or redispatching or delaying of flights. Any flight that's flown Part 121 through the airline cannot fly if the pilot doesn't say yes and the dispatcher says yes. They both have equal responsibility to agree that that flight is safe for operation. So why are dispatchers so important? There are many reasons why they are important. The first you may not be aware of is the pilot does not have access to a lot of information that you would like the pilot to have access to. They do not have a radar screen inside the cockpit. They're relying solely on the individuals on the ground to share that information with them. Dispatchers are there to ensure that the weather at the departing airport, all airports en route, and the airport at the destination all are safe in terms of weather and meet the minimum weather requirements. They are relying on the dispatcher and the weights and balance team and the fuel team to ensure that the aircraft has enough gas, that it was loaded in a manner to ensure safety of flight. They are completely dependent on everybody on the ground. The second is flight following. So you've determined the flight was safe and the flight has departed and it's en route to its destination. However, weather, as we know, is not stable. Weather is always changing, and while en route, weather happens to change at its destination, and now it may or may not be safe to land there. How does the pilot get notified of that? Again, he does not have a radar in the cockpit. He is counting on the dispatcher who is watching that flight in progress to notify him via ACARS, which is a text messaging system that goes directly between the pilot and dispatcher to notify him of any changes that may occur during flight. And lastly, two heads are better than one. They share the responsibility. They share the go, no-go responsibility. And it's better to have the responsibility of safety of flight on two people instead of just one. They both have to agree to go, or they both have to agree to cancel. So an aircraft dispatcher, we want to know what that is. An aircraft dispatcher is not ATC. There's many differences between a dispatcher and air traffic control. They have many responsibilities, not limited to the route of flight and weather, and they are also very important to the safety of flight. Now you know what a dispatcher is, and now you know what I do. I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. And here's my works cited page. Have a great night.